In this video, we'll be learning how to cut and sew this simple yet cute gathers dress for a baby girl. My name is Oluwatosin. In case you are new here, I made this baby girl dress with this bubu for the mom. I uploaded a tutorial on how I cut and sew this bubu. Have you seen it? If you've not seen it, you should check it out. The link is currently showing up and it will also be in the description box below. For this dress, I used flowery crepe, I used lace fabric, and I used lining. The basic measurements you need before you can cut and sew a dress like this for any baby girl includes the bust, the waist, the full length, the shoulder, and the armhole, then the half length. For this flowery crepe, I'll be using it just the way it is. I have just 1 yard and quarter here, and I'll be using it just like that. And the length that I have here is 15, which is the exact length that I need, because this is the exact quantity I have left. So I'm just going to be using it the way it is. I'll not be cutting anything from it. In case you have yours in very large quantity and you are trying to figure out the quantity that you will need to make your dress, it depends on how full you want it to be. If you want it to be very, very full, you can do times 3 of the waistline, times 4 of the waistline, times 5. And if you want it to just be moderate, you can just do times 2.5 of the waistline or times 2 of the waistline. I'm using the waistline because that is where it is entering. You can even do times 10 of the waistline, depends on how full you want it to be. That's the quantity that you will gather. After this, the next thing I did was to cut the edge at the lower part of this dress. So since the flowery crepe is 1 yard and 9 inches, I made this edge to 1 yard and 9 inches long, and the wideness I used 5 inches and I cut it out. The next I did was to cut the half length. For the half length for the front, I measured a bust divided by 2. Our bust is 25. So I divided 25 by 2 and I added 3 inches allowance. That's 1.5 on each side. I measured that on the rest of the fabric, and for the half length is 7. I added 1.5 inch. I used 8.5 and I cut that out. Then I measured a shoulder divided by 2, then her armhole divided by 2. Her bust and waist is the same, so I didn't really bother to measure. I just went straight to cutting the armhole, and the neckline I used neck width of 4. On fold of 2 I marked 2, and neck depth of 2.5, and the front is a round neck. Now I'm not cutting front and back together because the back is going to be a v-neck and the edge will be on the v-neck part of the back. So I used the front to cut the back. I placed the front that I cut out on the back, and then I cut the armhole, the shaping side, and I made sure that the center front is facing the edge where I want the V to be. I'm marking it this way so that I can know the inches that will lap each other when I'm sewing, so that the v-neck will not be too wide. It depends on how much you lap it on each other that will determine how wide the v-neck will be, and I don't want it to be too wide, so I just marked that place so that when it's time for me to sew, I'll know how much I can lap on each other. Like, I'll know how much zip allowance I'll use. Now, this is just me trying to arrange all my pieces so that I can imagine what to look like when I'm done sewing. Then I proceeded to cutting the belt. I made it 32 inches long and it is 4.5 inches wide, so that when I'm done turning it to be 2 inches wide. Now, the next thing I did was to cut the Peter Pan collar. To cut that Peter Pan collar, I folded my fabric into two and I brought back my front neckline. I placed it on the fabric that is already on fold of 2. I marked the neckline on that my piece that I folded, and then I marked how wide I want the Peter Pan collar to be. Then I proceeded to cutting it out. When I was done cutting it out, I cut out the middle of the collar as well, and that is it. It is that simple. So placing the collar that I've cut on the neckline, this is what it's looking like. The next thing I did was to cut another of this Peter Pan collar, because I'll be using one to turn one. I'll be using the same fabric as the lining. So I cut 2 for each side. That is it for the cutting of the collar. It is now time to start sewing. To sew, the first thing I did was to turn the collar. I faced one on the other, making sure right side is facing right side. Then I stitched down and I brought it out from the up. The next I did was to turn the back half length because of the edge on the V neckline. I will not turn the neckline, so I just folded the lining on that part because it will not turn the neckline. So I just neatly folded it. Then I turned the shaping side. I faced the lining to the right side of the half length. I turned the shaping side, and that's it. In this case, I cannot turn the zip side because the edge is extended to that side. So the only side I turned was the shaping side. I did this to the both sides of the back. The next thing was to attach this Peter Pan collar on the front neckline. It has been turned and pressed, so I placed it on the front neckline like this. I stitched it down first before using my lining to turn it. So while I was turning, I turned with hemming gum. I faced the lining to the right side of my fabric, and then I turned with hemming gum. I turned the two sides as well. I mean the shaping sides, and then I notched the neckline that I've turned before flipping it to the right side. For the belt, I cut out the pencil mouth and I turned the belt. I attached the belt to the half length, then I proceeded to joining the shoulder line for front and back on both sides. And you know that in a case like this, because of the edge, I could not turn the shoulder because the lining is not even extended to the neckline at the back. So there's no way I could turn the shoulder. So I didn't turn the shoulder, I just joined the shoulder line for the front and the back like that. Then the next thing I did after joining the shoulder line was to shape. I've already attached my belt to the front panel of this half length. I just stitched it down. I left like half and quarter inch from the down. That is the inch that I'll be using to join the gathers on the half length. When you look at the video that I played at the initial stage of this video, I mean the video of the dress, you will see that the edge at the half length is outside. The edge of the fabric, the one on the half length, is outside for the front, and at the back it's inside. The edge is not showing. So what I did next after shaping was to attach this edge to this flowery crepe at the lower part of the crepe. And now to start, I proceeded to gathering that crepe after attaching the edge of lace to it. Then I located the middle of the half length and the middle of the gathers. I pinned the two middle together and I faced the right side of the gathers to the right side of the half length, and I stitched from the zip side to the shaping side. I stopped there because I mentioned earlier that at the front, the edge of the half length to be outside, the edge on the half length it will be outside. So what I did was to put the gathers under the half length at the front, and I stitched from one side to the other side just for front. I didn't stitch it the way I did for the back. The back I faced the gathers on the half length right side facing right side, but for the front I put the gathers under the half length. Right side of the gathers is facing the wrong side of the half length. Then I stitched it. Then when I got to the other side of the back, I faced the right side of the gathers to the right side of the half length and I stitched it as well. This is just so that the edge can be outside. Now to line this, I located the middle of the half length and the middle of my line that I've already gathered to the length that I have here. I pinned the middle together just like I did when I was attaching the flowery crepe, like when I was attaching the gathers to the half length. Now I'll be turning the waistline, so my lining will face the half length this time around, not facing the gathers. The lining will face the half length. Then I'll sew from the zip side to the side and stop. Then for the front, I'll be attaching this lining to the lining at the front, not to the lace at the front, to the lining at the front. So I'll flip this lining up and face it to the lining. I'm not going to sew it on the lace at all at the front. I'll be sewing it on this lining that I'm raising up now. So I'll flip it up like this. Then I'll skip like 1.5 inch. That 1.5 inch is where the allowance that I've used to join it will be, so that that side will not be tight, like it will not squeeze. So I'll skip like 1.5 inch on both sides, to the left and to the right. I'll leave it opened. Then the other side of the back, I'll turn it just the way I've turned the other side, like the way I turned the first side of the back. So I left like 1.5 inch open that I did not sew because of the allowance that I've used to shape the half length. The next thing is to turn the zip allowance, so I faced the lining to the right side of the flowery crepe, and from the waistline I'll stitch it down to where the lining stops on both sides of the zip allowance. When I turn it to the other side, you will see that the zip side is already turned. The next thing to do is to fix the zip. So I'll put the zip allowance together like this and bring my zip to place on the back panel to figure out the length, depending on how long you want your zip to be on the dress. What I do is just to put my own zip on it, and I'll mark where I want the zip to stop. Then I'll stitch from where the zip stops to the whole length of the dress. So just stitch from here to the whole length of the dress. Then I proceeded to fixing my zip. After fixing my zip, I neatly folded my armhole, and that is it for the cutting and sewing of this dress. I hope this video has been helpful to someone. If it has been, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, and if you find it really interesting, don't forget to give it a thumbs up as well. If you have any question, don't forget to ask me down in the comment section. And after all being said and done, this is my simple yet cute dress. Thank you for sticking with me from the beginning of this video to this point. Don't forget that the tutorial to the cutting and sewing down, if you've not of this simple yet elegant look that I made for the mom, this is what my dress came out description box. The link to dress is a must have in every lady's description box. It's so easy to wear, and if you've not subscribed, consider subscribing. If you've been with me from the beginning to this point and you are new here, my name is Oluwatosin. So all my returning subscribers, any of all know my name, and thank you so much for being. If you've not, you should check them out, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.